From Simon Sanchez to the University of Guam, more students are making sure their voices are heard. More up next on
TrendSpotting!
How's everyone? I'm Cami and welcome back to another episode of TrendSpotting. Here are the topics that had you talking this week, starting with UOG students protesting the tuition hike. Many students opted to walk out of class at the University of Guam to protest a proposed measure that would fast-track a 30% tuition hike. The pressure was on, and the University of Guam Board of Regents backed off from its initial tuition increase proposal. In a packed meeting, board members modified their plan for a 30% hike, saying they heard the concerns of the students.
After a long discussion, we decided to allow the president to determine the fees as needed, but no more than 10%, starting not this semester, but next semester.
Last Friday, the university held a public hearing on a plan to increase tuition by 10% over the next 3 semesters. Students reacted strongly to the proposal, saying basically, too much, too soon. In a standing room only meeting to ratify the proposal, board members opted to amend it. In a statement, UOG President Christ said, "Our students let their voices be known and we heard them loud and clear." More than 100 walked out of their classes just before the board meeting in a show of protest. On Instagram, users voiced their opinions in the comments. At BYMSE said, "Sorry students, sometimes when you want something, you have to pay more for it. Like anything else, cars, homes, and even tuition, UOG is like any other operation that makes money to cover costs, and when you can't cover costs, something else has to give. You can always attend universities off-island. I graduated in 2004, but I'm sure our tuition costs are more affordable than any West Coast university, including Hawaii." At Angel.Guam said, "Maybe UOG should start by lowering the salaries of the administrators, program directors, etc. Some officials make double the amount of professors, who hold doctorate degrees and actually impact the students firsthand." Another Instagram user said, "If this wasn't enough for our debt, then that's the elected leader's fault. You need to know that it's the students first, not the school or anybody. We're not promised here for your money. It's our future education. Think about your next future children." At C Medina 888 said, "No university should suddenly raise fees 30%. That is mismanagement at its best. No question that the university should have seen this coming, the government of Guam and the trustees of the university. It is all of their collective responsibility to manage university finances and take action early on. What did they plan for 3 years ago? What was the plan 2 years ago or last year? There's no question that those shortfalls were obvious and they did nothing. And in no way can they expect students and families to make up for that kind of increase."
Yap's spirit is broken by this senseless and heinous act.
At the request of the FSM Department of Foreign Affairs, FBI agents from Guam flew to Yap to provide investigative assistance in the alleged murder of Yap Acting Attorney General Rochelle Bergeron. According to Yap State Governor Henry Falan, Bergeron was shot on Monday after returning home after work that day. On Facebook, people extended their condolences to the Bergeron family. Guam Attorney General Levin Camacho says, "We are saddened by the loss of a member of the Attorney General community. We respect there is an ongoing investigation and stand ready to assist our local law enforcement counterparts in any way possible should it be needed." Here are some words from the state of Yap's Governor Henry S. Falan.
As governor of the state of Yap, I promise to do everything in my power to have justice prevail and restore civility into our society.
The long-delayed reconstruction of Simon Sanchez High School could get back on track soon. Officials have pledged $4 million to pay for the next phase of architectural and engineering design, and there is even hope of actually breaking ground next year to begin rebuilding the 45-year-old school. It was announced at a press conference that felt more like a student pep rally. Apparently, it was organized by the Shark faithful to urge the governor and the Department of Education officials to figure out the funding that will get the rebuilding going again. Superintendent John Fernandez had asked the governor for $7.1 million from the anticipated $20+ million million revenue surplus. But the governor has already said any excess money would go toward deficit reduction. She made it clear today that of the $4 million needed for the next phase of the rebuilding project, $1.1 million would come from federal CIP funding, and the other $2.9 million GDOE said it already has.
And it's really in his authority and his purview, and to move forward the building of Simon Sanchez. By law, he has been given that authority.
We've got to move forward one way or the other. So I need to be able to get the governor's support, the board's support to allocate funding for that school right off the top. And we'll deal with the consequences later. So that means that if spending this money up front is going to make it tighter later in the fiscal year, we'll deal with that, working with the governor and the legislature.
In her letter to Fernandez, the governor says the funding should be clear, and so is a request for a proposal that can be issued right away for the next phase. Last week, unleashing frustrations on Facebook to FaceTime at Adaloop today. A meeting between Guam delegate Nicolas and Governor Lou Leon Guerrero just wrapped up at Adaloop. The meeting comes after tensions between the two centering mostly on Adaloop's efforts to lobby for support of San Nicolas's H.R. 1365 in Washington, D.C., and the governor's Local War Claims Effort Bill 181, which San Nicolas said is jeopardizing passage of his measure. Just last week, Congressman blasted Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Adaloop Chief of Staff Tony Babauta for pretending to do his job while they were in D.C. lobbying for 1365. Right from the start, Congressman was upset about the governor's efforts to continue her push for the bill. The governor said she's made an effort to work together and expects the same from him. San Nicolas, however, continued to oppose her efforts to push through the local bill because of the confusion it will cause in Washington, D.C., with his efforts and that he is the congressman. While watching the KOAM livestream of the meeting, Facebook users had open discussions in the comments. AJ Taisikui said, "Lou needs to let the man speak. He gave her the courtesy. She needs to stop speaking over him." Top fan Richard San Nicolas said, "This should have been day one stuff. They are even in the same party. But they were so salty Madeline didn't win re-election, it's been nothing but a smear circus. The people elected MSN, get over it. Madeline can't even do what she's being paid to do in D.C. Lou has to send the lieutenant governor." Another Facebook, Robert D. Camacho, said, "Coming to the table is the first step in working together. It may not be perfect, but at the very least there is an effort. That counts for something. When it comes to politics or any type of leadership governing, it is a debate of ideas and methods to get things done. Everything takes time and effort. I give them huge credit for at least being civil enough to meet and try and iron things out. We need to remember our Chamorro custom of Inafat Maulik." In a reply to Robert D. Camacho, Chris Abulencia said she wasn't that civil. Based on her remarks, it seemed like it was her way or the highway. We put up a poll on our Instagram asking if you believe Bill 181 will hurt HR 1365. That's all for this week. Siduos Maasi for watching, and I'll see you next week.